Hello, awesome people. I hope you all having an awesome day. And as you've probably seen from the title, I will be talking about sexual assault and prevention month, specifically on online abuse. So, trigger warning: this following episode contains mentions and references of anxiety, depression, sexual assault, and exploitation discussed in detail. First of all, like usual episodes, I would like to talk about my personal view and my experience and my opinion and all that, but I would like to share that later into the episode instead of right at the start. So, I would firstly like to talk about what this month is. And so Sexual Assault Awareness Month, for those of you who don't know, it's pretty obvious. It's in April, and which is this month, and of course, like other awareness months or days or weeks, it's basically just a period of time that is dedicated for spreading awareness on a specific topic. But World Bipolar Day in March last month, it's really important to raise awareness really throughout the year and not just during that specific time. And for a lot of people, it's very personal to talk about if they are personally affected by that issue or that problem. And for advocates, it's really just a day to talk about something and to be focusing on a specific topic, which is pretty great. So sexual assault is happening all over the world, and we have some areas that is more common, it's more common in some places, and in less developed countries, some of them use it as a form to earn money. But it really depends, because earning money by doing something in exchange for sexual favors is a lot different if they're doing it willingly. And however, there's a lot of negative impact on that, and it's illegal in a lot of places, but it really depends on your age and how you do that. And even in Hong Kong and in the US and in well-developed countries, it happens, sexual assault is happening, but sometimes people just wouldn't expect that, and they would just expect only less developed countries would actually have that occurring in their country. And really, with online abuse, it really does happen all over the world. Really, with anyone who has a phone or has a laptop or just through social media, it's a lot easier nowadays. So, this month, a lot of people are choosing to focus on online sexual exploitation, and I'll talk more about that specifically in a later episode. But in this episode, I would talk about that as well, and it basically means to really manipulate someone vulnerable, usually younger than them, and just to use them to sexually abuse them and to exploit them, and sometimes in return for money or other sexual favors. So usually people in this case teens, they won't just exploit themselves or send pictures to random strangers for $5 or $10. They first of all might be afraid to get scammed, and most people won't pay before they receive the pics or videos. But even without money in the conversation, I don't think anyone would just send pictures and videos for a random person they met online. So this is where really trust comes in, and often there includes a conversation beforehand, and maybe for a period of time, online grooming. And it's so often when someone you're talking to seems really nice, and they just seem like an innocent guy in a lot of cases. So if we're talking about girls, usually they just find someone who might talk about video games, talk about their favorite movies or their hobbies, and not once would they bring up something sexual. But they might slowly ask you about your age, and then they would make up a similar one, like an age close to yours, and act like they're 13 or 14. And they might genuinely seem happy for you after you tell them like about your day after school or something, and you might still be like texting them late at night, and it just feel really right, and it's like you met a new friend online. And really, that's a lot of effort they put into gaining a teen's trust and to really build a connection with them. Okay, so because this podcast is the mental health podcast, we will of course talk about the mental health of a person that is affected by something like this. And the percentage of people that has gone through something like this is a lot higher than what people expect. And with COVID and all of that, a lot of teens have home learning, and previously a lot of people were in quarantine and they were just spending a lot of time online or on social media. And not only are we using our phones and electronics a lot more now, but often I know a lot of teens and a lot of people I know just had like a period of time where they were feeling really down and they were just really upset, and they were really just desperate for some contact with friends and to socialize and to share their emotions and to talk to someone and to have someone to relate to. And that is also a factor of why online sexual abuse is becoming more prominent in some countries, and it's getting a lot more common and disturbing. And this is also a part of the reason why predators are getting a lot more smarter now. And so after a lot of research, I found out that about 1 in 10 girls and 1 in 50 or 52 boys will be sexually abused when they are up to when they're 18. And a lot of you might know that a quarter of adults have mental health issues. So that's basically 1 in 4 people on earth would have some form of mental problem or disorder, whether it be treated or undiagnosed. So if you really put that into perspective, and if we think about in terms of girls for a second, if you're in a class of 20 people, then at least 2 of you would have gone through online abuse. And if you just look around and find 4 people around you, at least 1 of them would have a mental disorder in their lifetime. So I would say that it is absolutely not unlikely that online sexual abuse can be directly contributed to, it can directly contribute to the number of people or the percentage of people with mental health issues. And I think it's very possible that quite a number of people with mental health issues and problems, it might be caused by their traumatic experience with something like being exploited online. So, as I am also a teenager, and I also have a lot of problems, and I'm trying to socialize and talk to friends and get everything right and get school and all that. So I do spend a lot of time on my phone, and I'm quite a socially awkward person, so I really enjoy being alone and not socializing. But I really like being alone. I really prefer it more than being with friends in some cases. And being alone and being lonely are 2 different, completely different things. So I'm usually alone, but not lonely. So yeah, so back to the point, I was dealing with my mental health, and I had some other stuff going on, and some school stuff, some family stuff, and my mental health was really honestly not that good, and it's something I've been really focusing on for quite a while now. And while being away from my therapist, and I had a new psychiatrist, and for a while it was just a little unusual, and I didn't get a lot of chances to talk to my friends, and so I fell into a hole. and not a legit hole. But I know a lot of people have been in the same dark hole before. And so how it works, usually I just think about it as whenever something upsetting or physically or mentally draining happens, you get pushed down and you keep getting pushed down. And whatever really something negative, you get pushed down into the hole. And like all holes, it is a real hole and it has a bottom. So that's the end, and I'm sure most of you would know what that means. But you've got people, you've got objects, or you've got pets and events or something that can help you. And friends, they're your rope, and you get pulled up, and you have parents that would throw you some food while you're down there to survive, and you've got pets that would sacrifice themselves to be with you, and you got all that. And so that's basically how it works, and it's a way that a lot of people and me, I visualize my struggles, and this is how I visualize it. And it's very possible. It's very possible to make it out, and if you keep going, it will happen. And even though it's hard, it's really, you would get out if you hang on long enough. So I'm out of the hole now, and I feel quite great. But when I wasn't, when I was still in that hole, I really wanted someone, and I was too scared to get help. And that's when people online showed up. And that's really a really bad time, because usually when I'm happy, I'll be thinking straight. And of course, I would just block them, delete their chats and block them. And that's the right thing to do. It's the safest thing to do. But I wasn't feeling great. And it's embarrassing for a lot of people going through this. And really, you really want someone to be with you, and you really want to do things right, and you really, really want to just basically feel something good. And during that time, I was just a little sad, and I had the problem with my meds for that bipolar, and I got messed up, and that messed me up even more. And when I met a really nice girl, and she started talking to me about her experience with addiction, and of course I felt nice. I felt like someone really understood me, and she was able to relate to me and my problems. And she also struggled with getting addicted to really meds, and she also had family problems, and she also was struggling in school. She had anxiety and all that. Well, then it turns out she wasn't a girl, and so that's how it happened. But sometimes it's really a lot weirder. Like, I think it's a bit weird that I met a girl at first, and because usually people they would disguise themselves as someone younger, like a teen, but they wouldn't necessarily say they are a girl. But sometimes it does happen, so you have to really be careful. So why does online exploitation get so difficult to deal with? If you're talking about like online, so on social media, so basically you think you've got a friend who really gets you, and it's almost like you want to meet them in real life, and you're best friends and all that, and suddenly boom, you're one day they're your best friend, and the other day they're a 50-year-old guy preying on teenage girls, and then you realize you send them a pic, and that's when it happens. They don't care about you. They just pretend to care about you to get you to do what they want. And then you get blackmailed. You realize you can't get out of that hole, and you realize you're stuck. And you either have to send them money or perform more of the sexual favors they ask for, or they'll just send it to your parents and friends. So you think you're stuck. Basically, that's how it happens, but that's really not the end. You're really not that stuck, and you can ask for help, but I know why it's really hard for teens to really take that step. So that's why a lot of teens choose to take their own lives, and when they're stuck in this position, they turn to other negative habits, and really that just makes the problem worse, and you go deeper into that hole. And for a lot of people, it just hurts too much to tell an adult and to tell parents, because you feel like you're betraying them, or like you're upsetting them or disappointing them. And if you have a rough relationship with your parents, you would think you're really making it harder for them, and they would be less proud of you, and they would hate you more. And it's the last thing you want to do. For a lot of people, you would think that telling an adult is the end of the world, and they won't accept you. They'd think you're dumb and you're stupid, but that's not it. And that's why we really need more education and more people to teach about this topic specifically, because if you're my age, if you're like 13, 14, 15, the majority of you would have met someone sketchy online, but not dealt with such a big problem. I've seen news reports of where people a lot younger than me, like 8 or 9, they're playing Roblox or Fortnite or just some game their parents think is harmless. They're just playing with friends, and then that's what happens. And the thing about it being online, it's really hard to trace down. And if you've seen like TV shows, it's possible they meet up and then expose them. But a lot of the time, unless you like trace them online, but it's very hard and there's too many of them, it's really hard to really avoid that. So you'd really just have to work to prevent that to happen, to prevent it from happening to you. And usually people, they'll think that it won't ever happen to you, and you think you're smart, and you think you're too clever for that to ever happen to you. You might be right, but I thought of the same thing too, and I thought people are so dumb. Like, a lot of them are so dumb to send pictures of themselves with their face even, and just to random people they met online. And I would just think, like, who would ever do that? Like, why would anyone ever do that? And you'd never think it'd be you. We're all going to struggle with ourselves, our own feelings, our own emotions, and our own thoughts, and it's impossible to run away from, because it's in your head, and someone disguised as a friend would offer help. And usually, sometimes that's how it starts. You trust them, and then they betray your trust. But we've all had weird strangers text us on Instagram, and like I said before, block them. Usually I would just block them without a second thought. Don't think too much of it. Just block them, delete their chat, and they're gone. So I know people in my school and some of my friends, even some of my close friends had gone through with something like this. And what's wrong is how we get taught about this topic, what we know about this topic, and the stigma and the stereotypes around it. And firstly, many people think it's taboo, so we naturally avoid it. And avoiding it doesn't really do anything, because the problem is here. The problem is right in front of us, and it wouldn't go away. It wouldn't just stop if we just stop talking about it, because we all know about this topic, and we have all experienced it, some more severe. But of course, kids, like younger kids, they don't really know about that. But as we're teenagers, we really do need to get taught more about the sensible way and how to really avoid that, because it's really hard when teenage kids, a lot of us just want to, we've all had like online friends and all that, and it's really dangerous. But a lot of the time they're really nice, and in reality, a lot of them are actually really nice friends online, but also a portion of them are just people pretending to be your friends. So sometimes we get taught about this, and society teaches it in a wrong way, sort of wrong way. So like what I said in the beginning of the episode, it is not always very obvious when it happens. Some people go up to you online, they ask for pics, but they don't get much. That doesn't work for most people. They don't do that. I've got friends that made out friends online, 15, 16-year-old boys who are from the other side of the world. And they say they're good at maths, or they came from a really rich family and they're really good at basketball or swimming or soccer or something. And they think, oh, it's just a friend, right? It won't harm you and it won't really do any bad, and it's just another teenage boy like you. But then this is not really what happens, and this is something we can't really learn through maths or English or science or everything in school. You can't learn to protect yourself from online child predators by knowing how to do trigonometry and to be able to analyze Shakespeare and all that. It's really important, like trigonometry and Shakespeare is really important, but in reality, the people who haven't experienced this don't know how it looks like. And a lot of people are really, really smart. Like a lot of them are very experienced in hunting down kids, and so often it's really hard. You don't really know when it comes, and so often only the people who have experienced the online abuse before knows what it looks like and are able to prevent it from happening again to them. So for the people that haven't experienced it, they won't be able to protect themselves, and it would just basically keep happening to them, and they would then become a person who has survived it, and they would be able to prevent it from happening to themselves, but people who haven't experienced it wouldn't. So it's a loop. People who has experienced it, they would know what it looks like, so they would prevent it from happening again, but then people that don't wouldn't be able to prevent it, and then they become a survivor, and then it's just a loop. And the point is, we really don't want to wait until everyone has gone through it for it to stop. We don't want to reach the last person in the world for it to stop, because we all know how to protect ourselves. Because the chances are it won't happen to people that have already experienced it. But we don't want to just be able to protect the people that have gone through abuse. We also want to prevent it from happening to people that haven't gone through it. So yeah, and that's the whole point of this month of Sexual Assault Awareness and Prevention Month. It's a prevention month, and so the point is we could prevent it. It's not impossible. A lot of people say, like, oh, it didn't hurt you. It didn't hurt you that bad. You're still here. It must have made you stronger. And that is a huge lie. I've heard it many times, and it sucks, because sure, it might have made you stronger, but at what cost? It might have took more from you than it has given you, and everyone who has gone through abuse would give so much to unlive that experience and to not know about all of that, and to not know about that side of the world, and to just not experience it, because it's really different to hear and to listen and to see that compared to actually feeling it, because this is a really serious topic. It's really serious, and it's not funny, and it has happened to a lot of people. And I've done collabs with people through podcasts a few years ago, and they've lived through online abuse, and it sucks, and it does happen, and that's the reality. But the point is, it'd be hard to change the people that exploit kids online, but we can also just learn to prevent it better, because that is so much easier. When predators can't find anyone else to prey on, they will naturally stop. It will take too long for them to hunt down kids and send messages to each of them individually and pretend to be friends. So we have to talk about it. It's not embarrassing. It's not shameful. It's shameful if it has happened to you. It hurts. It does really hurt. But this is happening. And what good would we do if we don't help the people that have been impacted by it, and to help and prevent it from happening to someone? And one other thing I would like to say is that even though statistics show that so girls are more vulnerable to this sort of problem, it is very possible for for males to go through this. And if it happens, if someone tells you about it, please believe them. Always believe them. Always believe them before you choose to doubt them or anything. The last thing you want to do is for them to pour their heart out to you and to tell them every single detail and to basically relive that experience, and for you to just not accept them and not to believe them. So the point of this is to just be a good human, be a good person. So, as usual, before we end this, I would like to remind you to please reach out for help. Please talk to a trusted adult if you're feeling down or unwell. You can also call for crisis hotlines if you'd prefer that. And if you're in an emergency, please call your local emergency services. Of course, you can talk to me for you can talk to me for like a chat or for some teenage advice or whatever you want. But I am not necessarily good at that, and I am not not a professional, and I'm not trained. So I would really suggest talking to an adult or a professional in this area first. Please do not hesitate to seek help. Before we finish this episode, I would like to say thank you for listening, and that you can always contact me at my Linktree. If you're listening on Spotify, it's in my about, and if you're not on Spotify, you can easily find it on my Instagram bio. So please contact me there for any suggestions, feedback, or if you just like to chat. So I hope that helps. Thank you for listening. I hope you listen to my other episodes, and I hope you have an awesome day. Bye!